Okay. Now, how can I continue after that? So yeah, thank you very much everyone for the opportunity to listen to what I'm doing at the moment for my DPhil. I think it would be a good idea to at least know a little bit of the motivation why I'm doing this research. I think everyone would understand my research. I mean, the first half of today's presentation is very heavy, but I think this one you'll be fine. But I think the main motivation, it started when I questioned my name, my surname. If you Google it, you'll only find 4 people with that surname, me and my 3 other siblings. And I asked my dad, why would you give me such a weird surname? It's very long. No one could ever pronounce it. It's just not practical. And when I asked that question, I was still doing my maths degree in Cambridge and mathematics. So I came from science background. And then for my master's, I decided to do comparative and international education with my master's dissertation, focusing on the role of education in promoting positive relations between Chinese and non-Chinese in Indonesia. And that's because of me questioning the name. So my dad said to me, during the time when I was born, during the Suharto era, Chinese Indonesians were not allowed to have any Chinese names. So that's why they have to somehow disguise, my dad has, or Chinese Indonesians have to Indonesianize their names. I think at that time, if you ask people who were born during the Suharto era, they would have the surat ganti nama or surat SKBRI, they call it, Surat Keterangan Warga Negara Indonesia, even though those people were born in Indonesia. So my surname is actually Tan, but anyone would not find that in there. My husband's surname is Lim, and his surname, his Indonesian surname is Salim. Whenever we have to do booking in Indian restaurants here, we don't need any credit card because they thought he's from India. Because Salim is normally a surname used by Muslim Indians. Okay, so that kind of sparked my motivation, but it was also complemented by my long life experiences, watching over my dad's working in a multicultural school in Medan. So after I finished my master's, I decided to go back to Indonesia for 2 years, working in the school, trying to develop multicultural education curriculum. Essentially, the school, our school, has two main aims. The first one is to reduce poverty through education. So 70% of the students come from middle-low income backgrounds, and then the second one is to promote peaceful coexistence in Indonesia, because it's believe it or not, whether we want to admit it or not, there has been problems with inter-ethnic relations, inter-religious relations, as well as those from the same religion but coming from different sects or different belief groups or different religious organization. Okay, so that's basically it. I think I don't have to bore you with all the details, but I did base this not only from my personal encounters, but also from reports from various sources, including the Ministry of Religious Affairs, Center of Religious Cross-Cultural Studies, Setara Institute, and other institutes. They have seen that there's a recurrent trend of increasing intolerances in Indonesia, and there are also heightened social friction between different ethnic and religious groups. there's an increase of right-wing populism, not only in Indonesia but worldwide as well. Forceful closure of religious buildings, not only church temples but also, a mosque, for example, in certain parts of Indonesia. So that kind of further strengthened my motivation of doing this research. Most people do a research because they want to find a solution. But I was in a position where I started with, I have a solution, which is the multicultural education approach, which I have been implementing for a few years. And then so many people told me, yeah, but you are lucky. You have students coming from different ethnic religious backgrounds, and that's why you are able to build a church, a mosque, a temple, a Hindu temple in your school area, and you have that conducive environment to promote that interreligious or intergroup relations. And then I kind of felt like, even though I really want that all schools have mixed students coming from different backgrounds, but the reality is there are schools not only in Indonesia but everywhere in the world that are homogeneous. There are schools that are faith-based, and there have been research saying that homogeneous schools tend to fail in promoting peaceful coexistence because of the exclusivity of the population and how they sometimes teach intolerance as a result of that. So I decided, okay, if it is in existence, what do these schools do in order to promote unity in diversity? Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. Okay? So I think everyone who was born in Indonesia, been raised in Indonesia, you must have learned about Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, right? What does it mean? What does it mean? Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. Oh, you failed your university. What does it mean? Bhinneka Tunggal Ika artinya
beda-beda tapi tetap satu.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to find out. What do people think about unity and diversity, that slogan? So that's my research question. The first one, I want to find out what people learn, what people think about unity and diversity. Okay, because we learn about the slogan, right? Walaupun berbeda-beda, tetapi tetap satu juga. But what is different? Apa yang berbeda? What is the different? Right? And I don't know how much of you know about the history of the slogan, the national motto, but there is a big, it's almost like now actually, there has been unity and diversity, or Bhinneka Tunggal Ika has been used, it was born out of a compromise between religious groups at the time and the nationalists pre-independence or during the independence time. So at the moment, we are facing that kind of struggle. I wanted to find out what people think of unity and diversity. And then once I know at personal level, I want to find out how schools as institution, they promote unity and diversity, how they do that systematically, do they put it in the vision, blah, blah, blah. And what strategies do teachers as the forefront of education teach unity and diversity in classrooms. And then after that, I want to see whether there are differences in implementations and teaching in places with different cultural and religious demographic profiles. So I did my research. It's a multiple two-tier case study. Two-tier case study here is, the first tier of case study is between Jakarta and Bali. Why I chose Jakarta and Bali? Not because I want to sunbathe in Bali, but based on because everyone's like, you chose Bali purposely because you want to go on holidays, get paid to do holidays. I said no, right? I chose Jakarta and Bali because based on the survey of Inter-Religious Harmony Index conducted by the Ministry of Religious Affairs in 2015, Jakarta perform below the average. Meaning, Jakarta people in general, I mean, from the survey, the way you interpret it, they have less tolerance. Whereas Bali is performing its top 3 in the survey. So I wanted to see whether there are differences in that. And also, Jakarta is predominantly Muslim, whereas Bali is predominantly Hindu. And I want to see whether schools, I chose 2 state schools, and if you see over there, I chose 2 state schools in Jakarta with Muslim majority, and then the private is Christian and Buddhist. And then Bali, the state predominated Hindus, whereas the private is a Muslim school, Islamic school. I wanted to see people who are studying in Muslim majority school in Muslim majority cities. Contrast that with people who say Muslim students who are studying in Bali within the predominantly non-Muslim environment. I wanted to kind of see what's happening and how do they interpret Unity Diversity differently. It involves 164 education stakeholders. I have more than 120 interview transcripts. So that's why it takes longer than I anticipated. Because of the lack of time, I won't bore you with the preliminary findings, but essentially what I'm trying to find out is how do schools in Indonesia with their own characteristic, including the student population, how do they interpret Unity Diversity? How do they come up with programs in schools to promote that, if they promote that, and how do they teach it in classroom? For example, if a biology teacher teaches about Unity Diversity, how do they do that? If you want to find out the answer, you can ask me later on. That's all for today. I hope it will give you some insight into what I have been working on. Thank you.